We're on to another Talent Talk, episode 33, and today we speak to another alum that is serving on the front lines during the COVID-19 pandemic, former UNF softball player Stephany Hall. Stephany has been working as a traveling nurse, and she is doing so in Hawaii. She's also been volunteering at a COVID testing site as well. We will get into that part of her life and her journey around the country in this occupation, imparting some advice on those that might want to pursue this as their career going forward. So thank you for being on the podcast today, Stephany.
No problem. Thanks for letting me be here.
Yeah, of course. You got recommended, so feel good about that. Recommended by Coach Higgs and Courtney Radke as well. So they put your name out there, and thanks for talking. I know there's probably a lot of unique things about what you're doing that people would want to hear about, obviously with the circumstances with COVID, but just your lifestyle of being able to live in Hawaii. Just give some background on what you're doing now and just the timeline to where you are now from UNF.
Oh goodness. Since graduating
That's a lot
UNF.
of things. That's a lot of things, obviously. But you can start with what your day-to-day is right now and what kind of you shared earlier with me.
Yeah. Day to day, I just finished. I'm actually a nurse practitioner student. That's my main job right now. So I've been in my now third semester. I just finished. So I was doing clinicals for most of the spring, but I just stopped that last week, and now I'll start doing more in-hospital shifts as far as nursing in their ICU, basically wherever they need me, wherever they're short-staffed. So even telemed or med-surg units and stuff like that. But my background is primarily ICU.
Was that an intent of yours to, because I think your degree was in community health. Was that kind of a pursuit that you wanted to take this route?
Yeah, I mean, I think growing up, I didn't know for sure if I wanted to do nursing. I think I didn't think I was smart enough, honestly. I've always been that person that just has to like really work hard to like get an A versus the people that can just like walk in and walk out with an A and not even study. Like bravo to those people, but that's not me. So like it was a confidence issue. But I grew up taking care of my grandfather who had like a Parkinson-like disease similar to that. So, I knew kind of what went into taking care of people and what it took. And, after playing softball for a few years, it kind of just like, there was nothing else that I wanted to do more than just like to go into nursing. But the good thing about community health was a lot of the same classes and courses that was in that one was also what I needed for nursing, the prereqs. So I maybe had to take one or two more classes, and I was ready for nursing school.
So you played softball here at UNF, studied community health, and then you went into nursing. Where did you do that at?
I went to, after, it was in 2011. So the year before I graduated at UNF, I started at Kaiser University. This is the private school right there. And, did their accelerated program. So I finished my UNF degree and my nursing degree within like a few months of each other.
Okay. So bang, bang, like right away.
Yeah.
That's good that you probably wanted to knock things out as soon as possible. Growing up in Florida and staying in Florida for college, was there an itch at that time to get out of Florida?
Not really. I mean, I had family there, and I just wanted to get experience. So my mom had worked at a hospital for a long time as a financial officer. So I wanted to kind of stick to what I knew as far as those people that I knew. And so I went for the hospital that was in Orlando that I was familiar with, ended up working there for a few years and got my experience, because travel nursing was in the back of my head, but it wasn't anything that I knew for sure I wanted to do, especially with the confidence thing. I wanted to make sure I knew what I was doing before I go somewhere and, try to do it at some other hospital that I wasn't familiar with.
Sure.
So and one of the rules of travel nursing is you have to have experience. They won't even look at your resume if you have under 2 years. So that was my biggest thing, is I'm fine with staying in Florida for a few years, but I did have the itch of just like, there's, I need to see what else is out there as far as where I could live one day, and that's what travel nurse gave to me. So
sure. Rewinding back a little bit. So you're from, Central Florida, and Jacksonville's not too far away. how did you end up at Jacksonville or in Jacksonville at UNF? And what was that process like? And then um, how did softball kind of fit into your life plan at that time?
Yeah. Honestly, UNF, I have no idea. I think we went to go look at it one day just to as a prospect, and I fell in love with the campus. Like when I went there as my orientation or kind of just like a visit. I don't know, it was just beautiful to me, and I could just see myself going there, and that's what I was excited about. I wasn't even planning on playing softball. I went out of high school thinking, I played softball my entire life. I I think I just need a break from it and like just now live because I've never had a spring break. I've never done any of those things. So I was excited for that portion of my life. And I don't know, when I walked past the campus, I know, do they still have like lot 18 or like
Yes.
oh, so that walk,
Oh, I know that
that
walk very well too.
lot
Yeah.
18 to like campus, I passed by the softball fields every day and I was like, dang, I miss it. Like I couldn't see myself not playing softball or at least trying out. So I asked the coach, could I just try out and just see if there's potential there? And I ended up making it. I walked on and yeah, I was a great decision. My parents were happy. I mean, they loved coming to all my games when I was younger. And so this was like something for them to look forward to too. So it all really it worked out.
That's cool. You probably you had some things to offer on the field, I'm sure, because walking on as a Division One athlete and playing with the team for multiple years is definitely a hard thing to do. What would you describe your game to be? What was your kind of your MO?
Oh gosh. I mean, I think I just brought a personality to it. Like I try not to take things too seriously, but also like I'm very competitive, and I think that you could see that when I play. And as most people, I'm pretty hard on myself. So I don't know. I was very intense with my passion for softball. Like it's still to this day. Like it's going into my nursing career. It's that what you learn from it that takes you into your career and life. I don't know. It shaped me for sure. So, but I think I was just really funny. I don't know if I was really that good, but I knew how to make people laugh. So that's probably why they kept me on.
And that has a lot of value, especially in baseball and softball,
Yeah.
because it's very unique because you're pretty much I played baseball in college and I I remember just more than anything, maybe sitting in the dugout and talking to my teammates for
Yeah.
hours and hours and hours over the years. And it's a good memory, but it's important to have personalities in those sports.
Oh heck yeah. Mm.
Yeah. And now we've got some improvements to the softball field that definitely have made it look pretty sharp. We got new stands and whatnot. So if you ever are halfway across the world back in Florida, you should check it. You should check it out.
I know I'm going back in a month. I mean, hopefully I'm going back in a month to see
Right.
family. So that was one of the plans, was hopefully to make it up to Jacksonville
Okay.
just
All
to see
right.
them. So I have to check it out.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, you should. Be pretty quiet around the area, but it's definitely a nice improvement. So you had that period of your life, and then start going with being a nurse, and then you are where you are right now in Hawaii. Were there other steps in between that led you to Hawaii, location wise?
I was so before coming to Hawaii, I was in Washington. I took an assignment there for 4 months. That was my first assignment, so I was just kind of getting transitioned into travel nursing, and I loved it. And I always kind of had a fear of coming to Hawaii because, I mean, I wasn't really sold on it. I'm not a resort person, and that's what you see on the infomercials and the websites, just like, oh, come to Hawaii, stay at this beautiful resort. And I was like, that is just not me. And so when I came to visit one day or for like a week before actually moving here, I saw like the hiking and just the stuff that is not shown. And I've really learned to like love the lifestyle here. And I think that's what sold me on it. And so I was like scared. I was like, dang it, I know I'm going to love it here if I do an assignment here, and I'm not going to want to leave. And that's exactly what happened. So I was a pretty terrible travel nurse, to be honest with you, because I stayed on my second assignment, but I mean, I've never looked back. So.
Okay. And talking about Washington, I know you said it was in Tacoma. So, I mean, seeing Mount Rainier every day is
Oh,
if you can see it, it's an amazing thing. Yeah.
it was like my jaw dropped every day driving to work because I was
Hmm.
in Good Sam Hospital in Puyallup, Washington,
Hmm.
and that drive I mean, it was breathtaking, and the hiking there too. And I've never known that like it was important to carry bear spray until I
Oh,
hiked
yeah, I
in
didn't think about that.
Washington.
Yeah.
Like Hawaii, there's nothing here, so maybe you'll see a pig, but it's like bears. Like I just, so I had to give away my bear spray when I left there. I was a little sad about that.
Yeah, that's very true. Out there, you can very quickly leave civilization, kind of like Hawaii, though. You can leave civilization and be in the mountains or be in the woods. And you
Yep.
can drive out of Tacoma, or you can drive out of Seattle, and you're 30, 40 minutes out of the city, and you're on a freeway that's running through some of the thickest forests that you'll see in the country.
Yes.
So it's very cool to have that contrast of southeast and in Florida, and then going up to Washington. I can understand the apprehension with Hawaii. What was the biggest apprehension? Was it just, the logistics of life there, or was it just being even further away?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely my family. Like, it's hard to be 3,000 miles away from them at all times. It's hard to be a time zone away from them, a few time
Mhm.
zones, right? 6 hours. But we've made it work, and they've always been so supportive. Um, I think one of the things that people don't think of when they move to Hawaii is even if you have some people here with you, and I hope that if anybody moves to Hawaii, they have at least one person they know. It's expensive, that's why. But
Mhm.
it's weirdly like it can be a little lonely at first because you don't know the lifestyle, and it almost feels like a completely different country. So like when I first got here, I was just a little bit, I was excited to be here because I could do the hiking on my own and stuff, but it was a little, I was taken aback because I just didn't know the area. And when you're not sure of places and stuff like that, you just kind of get, it makes you miss home for sure. So
Mhm.
there was a little bit of like apprehension at first when I first moved here, but I've met my friends here that are great. I know my boyfriend's still here, and we've been here now for 4 years, and it's been the most amazing 4 years, of hopefully I think my life. I mean, I have a lot more life to live, but
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's safe to say not many people even get a trip to Hawaii. So 4 years in Hawaii is something that sets you apart from a lot of people, and especially if you like to travel. Um, what was that adjustment like at first in terms of, was there any differences in what you could buy at the store, basic kind of day-to-day things that you were
oh
adjusting
yeah,
to?
it's like I don't know what's a gallon of milk in Florida, like
Yeah,
a
I don't know,
dollar.
$2.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like $2. And here it's almost like $7. So it's like
Hmm.
I don't drink milk anymore.
Yeah, you kind
Uh,
of just, I'm like, all right, I got to cut things out of my life
yeah,
now because it's
like
expensive.
you have to start prioritizing Amazon. I mean, there is
Yeah.
no Amazon out here.
Oh,
Amazon Prime. There's
yeah,
Amazon. There's not like the Prime. Like, I mean,
yeah.
you can get things maybe in 5 days, but I just miss Orlando and like ordering at that moment and being at my doorstep that night. I'm like, this is
Yes.
amazing. And then I came out here and I'm like, wow, I was so spoiled.
Yeah.
So, but it doesn't stop me from ordering stuff on Amazon. Like
Right. And then so you got there in 2016 or 15?
2015.
Right. And so that was kind of the
Oh wait, no,
begin
2016. You're right.
and that was kind of the beginning of Amazon really being like, people are doing this all the time. Prime is taking off. People are buying their groceries there. Like before that, it was still kind of, a niche, more of a niche thing. So I get that being a huge adjustment. I know I'd struggle with that to start in
Yeah,
Hawaii. Um,
but there's what I like about it. I mean, like all the grocery stores here, they make you use recyclable bags, or you have to like have your own. And because I mean, you have to like respect where you live, and we live surrounded by an ocean. So like, I think that's one thing that the culture here has really taken to is like wanting to preserve this place, and it's amazing. You know, so nobody's around here like asking for plastics and stuff like that. We really try to like watch and keep in mind like what we're using and just how we're disposing of things, I guess.
mhm.
So
Yeah, that's a good point, because what you're living on, you see it every day, and it reminds you that this is what I have to work with,
yeah,
this and nothing else. And so it's like you've got to be efficient and respectful with it.
definitely.
What's the pace of life like in Hawaii?
Um, there's definitely, you know, doctor's appointments that people come to, and it's like, sorry, it's Hawaii time. Like, it's just a
Hmm.
thing. Like people are late sometimes.
Hmm.
Like for jobs, no, you can't be late. But
Right.
it's definitely like maybe a slower lifestyle for some. But I think it also depends on the field that you work in. So like in nursing, it's definitely not. It's just an ICU. It's always fast paced.
Mm-hmm.
We're never like allowed to say the Q word, which is like quiet, you know, because like that's when things turn on and, you know, it can get crazy. So, but I like the lifestyle here. I would say it's a little bit on the slower side, which is just, it's great. I mean, it makes me leave work after a fast paced shift and just like breathe. Cause like, you know, you can ride your bike to your house, which is like a mile away. And just, I don't know. I mean, I think that's one of the advantages of living here too, is that it kind of makes you on your days off, you really appreciate your days off, you know?
Do you have a favorite view that you can just go and access every day?
Oh yeah, this one.
Oh, perfect. I'm glad I asked. Yeah, so you're seeing the water 24/7 if you're at home.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And then there's your mountains over there. I don't know if you can see them.
Yep, I can see those too. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a
Oh,
lot of
that's
great
awesome.
hiking out here and stuff too. So, I mean, you have to take advantage of it on your days off, which
Right.
lately with school, and I just guilt tripped my way into always studying that I don't take advantage of it enough. But it's something that I know, especially during this pandemic, if there's one thing I've learned, it's, you know, don't take those things for granted because you never know when you're going to have a stay-at-home order, you
Right.
know?
What is that like trying to study in a place like Hawaii or being cooped up?
It's discipline. I mean, we always have friends that want to go out on the boat and stuff like that, but I think it's kind of, it's a good and bad thing. Like I've really disciplined myself where I know that I need to do well on this test, so I'll start studying well before, and or I know when I can't do something. But like you have to have those friends or those people beside you, you know, when you're in med school or in school in general, where like you know when you need a break. So you don't want to overdo it because it just ends up making you crazy a little bit. So I don't know, it's good to get out for like even a 30-minute walk or something like that. So that would be my one suggestion for people in med school or in nurse practitioner school or nursing school, is like make sure you like have time for yourself and get those breaks, because it's so important. You don't realize how much you process after you've had a good little break, you know.
Yeah,
And I
especially.
definitely didn't know that in college.
Yeah, I think that's a hard thing to really. That takes a lot of self-examination sometimes, and you're studying. You're like, why am I not retaining this? You know, and
Exactly.
sometimes it's literally you got to look away from a screen for 5 minutes or shut your mind off for a little bit, and especially take advantage of being outside. Does it feel different breathing like out there, even like when you come to the States, or maybe and there's just more around you per se? Does it feel like I'm breathing fresher air?
Yeah, I mean, everybody, when I tell people here that I'm from Florida, they're like, "Oh, why did you move here?" I mean, it's just like Florida. I'm like, it is not like
No,
Florida.
yeah.
How dare you? It is so different. It's like it's it's hot here, but it's not like the humid hot that Florida has. That really muggy, like after a rain, it's just, you know what
Yep.
the
Oh,
feeling.
yeah. It's heavy. It's like a heavy
Mm-hmm.
air. Yeah.
And I think Hawaii, I mean, it rains often pretty much because we live by the mountains, but it's not like Florida where it's like a downpour and then it just is beautiful, you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
one thing I do miss not being in Florida, and I've told all my friends this, is like, I really miss a good thunderstorm because there's like no thunderstorms here. So when we do, I think we had one like 6 months ago and I stayed up and I just listened to it because I was like, this makes me miss home.
Yeah. Thunderstorms, funny enough, they have kind of a nostalgic feel to it because I grew up in the Midwest, and you can get those really hot, muggy, powerful thunderstorms in the summer in the Midwest. And then I have a sibling in Seattle, like I mentioned, and that was one thing she said recently is, "Oh, you're having a thunderstorm right now." They're talking to my parents, and I miss that. It's kind of got like,
Weird, right?
yeah, it's right. That's kind of a universal thing. I think it reminds you of other places.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, Florida and Hawaii. I mean, I've never been to Hawaii, but in what I've taken in, and obviously with what you said, yeah, I mean, Florida is going to be that swamp kind of like oppressive heat, especially in the
Mm-hmm.
summer. We're getting into that right now, and I would imagine more maritime throughout the year in Hawaii. Um, Going off of another difference, what's it like with all the time differences that you deal with being in Hawaii? Like, if you were to watch something live and you wanted to
Oh
watch it,
yeah.
What's that
I
like?
just don't even have cable anymore.
Yeah, okay.
I just have Hulu, you know, have Netflix for those things that I can record. But I gave up. Like, but the funny thing is, I was such a huge sports fan. You know, playing sports my whole life. I was a major sports fan, like football, and so you know, you have to watch those games, and they start at 6 a.m. You know, at Hawaii time, but it's so fun. I mean, it's fun to like be up and then by 12 you're done with your day, or
Yeah.
you know, by 10 a.m. it's like, okay, now what can we do?
Now
Let's
what
go to
I
the
do?
beach.
Hmm.
So it's not like I'm spending all day watching TV. It's just like I'm up, I'm drinking coffee, and I'm watching, you know, the Florida Gators.
I remember growing up and watching Premier League games out in the UK and being 7 a.m., 6 a.m., or anytime you try to watch Wimbledon or the French Open or the Australian Open. And you're like, oh, this kind of takes a little bit of effort, but I've never watched
Mm-hmm.
the sport at this time of day. And I kind of like it more now that I'm watching it at this time. But I'm sure the culture of Hawaii is like pushing you to be doing something or doing something outside a lot of the time. So, you know, it's not like you're always going to be like watching a screen.
Yep. So I get the best of both worlds. I get my time in with sports, but then, you know, an hour and a half later, I can be going to the beach or something for the day. So
Good
it's
point. Good point. Good point.
that.
What's the most frequently asked question of you in about Hawaii?
Hmm. Most frequently asked question. Probably mostly the weather, or like, what do I do? And like, it's so sad because like I said, I'm in school, so like I'm always studying. So sometimes I have to fib because I can't let them think that they don't have this beautiful vision of Hawaii. And then I'm saying, oh, you know, I stay inside a lot and study.
Yeah.
Cause like, oh. So, you know, you have to fib a little bit. And I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
it's great. I'm outside every day.
Yeah.
But you know,
You have to
I had
be,
to be for them.
they're going to like guilt you in. You have to be like, yeah, I'm on the boat right now. Like, where do you think I was studying? I'm studying on a
Now, you know?
boat.
I'm like, I can't really hear you. I'm sailing.
Yeah. Yeah, I would imagine that would happen. Is there a new food that you've come across that you buy
Oh,
more of? Yeah.
and that's my favorite thing about Hawaii is their food.
Okay.
It's like you can go to the grocery store and get like the best ahi tuna. That's called like poke.
Yeah.
Like
Okay.
people,
Yes.
and it is amazing. Like I could have it every day, I think.
So,
And then obviously sushi is amazing here.
yeah.
It
What
really
about
makes me judge now when I go home to Florida and my friends are like, let's go get a bento box. I'm like, no, like
I'm only doing
like
that if I'm home.
I have a standard now. Okay.
Yeah, you're a Hawaii snob now with your sushi.
I can rep about
That's fair. I mean, I think that's accepted being on an island. What about the fruit? Is that really good?
Yeah, I mean, I've never had papaya until I came here. And I mean, it's like a staple here. I feel like a lot of people eat that for breakfast. Like in the hospital, when I first started working in their ICU, and some of my patients who were, you know, ambulatory and talking and everything like that, they would ask for papaya for breakfast. And I'm like, what is that? And finally, my patient was like, you know what? I'm going to have this. I'm not going to eat half of it. I need you to eat it right now because you're missing out. And so he let me have his half, and we just sat there and we were eating it together. And it was just so funny. I mean, it's so good. It's like a sweet melon. Have you ever had papaya?
I have, and I really like dried papaya especially, but I've
Oh,
had papaya
yeah.
as well too. Yeah, it's very good. It is good. It is a little bit you know, it's not something you're gonna. I can't even think of a time that I've seen it in a grocery store. Maybe I don't look for it, but
A lot of times people don't. We like Hawaii grocery stores too get a lot of locals, like a local food farmers and stuff like that. So a lot of times it's coming right off of people's trees. Um, so there's not like a mass production of them. I feel like with papaya, it's a lot of
Mhm.
just local people in the neighborhood, and sometimes they'll give it to hospitals. So that's probably the one thing that we get brought the most as a nurse is like all of our patients love to give us fruit like papayas. So it's I never say no.
Yeah,
You
of
know.
course. Yeah, I mean you're in a good place for it. You got to take advantage of it.
Yeah.
What about um, just the time of eating? Do you guys eat at kind of the same time, or do you eat later in the day now that you're on island time? I don't know. I mean, once you get out of the country.
if I'm like, the worst is coming back from, actually the worst is going to Florida, like traveling from here to Florida, because
Oh
the time,
yeah.
it's like, I don't know what to do with myself. I mean, the first thing I always do when I get home is I go to Chick-fil-A, because I don't have that here.
Okay,
And
I was gonna
everything's
get to that.
different. Oh, it is hard. But yeah, so adjusting the time from here to there is really tough. But coming from Florida back to here, I don't know. It's really easy. It's like I get up earlier, which is fine with me. Like I'll get up at like 5 and just read or ready to start the day. Versus when I'm home, I like don't get up until like 11 a.m. I'm like, who am I? You know,
Yeah,
I'm better than this, but it's such an adjustment. It is tough. So
it is a severe. I mean, it's just a big time change too in the first place, getting all the way across from East Coast to Hawaii, East Coast to West Coast alone can be. Um, Going off of Chick-fil-A, are there certain chains that are non-existent in Hawaii in addition to that?
oh yeah, let's see, In and Out, California, big one, which
Right.
I learned to love. Let's see, Panera Bread, that was a good college
Mm-hmm.
place that I used to
Staple.
go. Hmm. And what else? Oh, Chipotle.
Really? Wow, that is a big loss. Yeah.
It is. There's been rumors for like 2 years that Chick-fil-A is coming here, and I even marked on my maps where the future one is supposed to be.
X
But
marks the
it's been
spot.
2 years. Yeah, it's an old Burger King, and I still have it on my maps. And I'm like, this is the future, but it's all talk. You
You
got to
think
really
so?
do, huh?
You think it's all
There's so
talk?
many chickens around, right?
Huh?
There's so many chickens just running around here.
Yeah,
You're
right.
losing hard.
It's just that simple. I mean, I think it would probably have great success there as well. So to make up for no Chipotle, what do they have out there?
I mean, Thai food, like they have the
Thai.
best
Hmm.
food, and um, obviously seafood is huge. Pho.
Hmm.
I mean, Ethiopian food, even, like it's just like whoever opens a restaurant here knows it has to be like culture driven and real, because like it won't last if not, I feel like.
Hmm.
So the restaurants here, there is no bad restaurants.
Hmm.
I mean, you can go wrong with wherever you eat.
So is there that kind of closeness also in the Hawaii on each individual island in terms of community?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I've only been to Maui a couple of times, and Kauai a few times. And I've kind of stayed away from like the city. I've done a lot of the hiking and kind of the back roads, but um, I feel like every community, especially now, like with the whole pandemic, you're really seeing a lot of the community members in each island really step up
Mm.
and volunteer and like doing the most good. So I mean, the culture here is very strong, but they're very accepting. Like that was one of my biggest fears, is I felt like it was another country, because they have their own type of language here, and I don't know that, and I don't want to be disrespectful caring for someone, and I don't know the proper, like, how they say things. So but they're very accepting, and just the nicest people. So I've really been fortunate to be living here as long as I have.
Have you picked up on any of the native language there?
um Maybe a little bit. So is it Japanese, kind of, and there's Pidgin. So like shishi is urinate, and so like I never,
That's
when I'm
helpful as a
like,
nurse. Yeah.
do you need to use the restroom? She's like, no, I'd have to go shishi, and I was like, she's where is she? And then I figured it out. So
So English
yeah,
speaking people will just integrate words like that.
yeah.
Okay.
And there's a favorite one. It's decline. So when you're trying to think of the word, but you can't really think of it, but you're trying to just keep the sentence going, you say, what's the decline over there? Or, you can't think of the actual word, but you just say decline. So, and most of the time people understand what you're saying. It's very odd. So like if you're saying, go get my decline, it's like, go get my purse, you know?
Really? That's really
And you
vague.
have to- yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, they have to explain it usually after that, but I mean, it's just one of the staple words here that people use. And
Okay.
great.
That's cool. I mean, that's the fun part of traveling right there. I mean, and just being in a new place
I'm
is
not
just
cool enough yet to use it, so I'm waiting for the moment like the perfect time that I can
you got
say
to
it.
be like accepted. You still like are reaching this level
Yeah,
of
yeah.
like
I'm in
cultural
the initial stages,
acceptance.
so yeah.
Are most people, do you find a lot of other people in your shoes being from Florida or being from Virginia or such Texas that are in Hawaii?
There's a lot of out of state residents here. So I got my license and like my residency here about 8 months after I was a nurse, and I decided I wanted to stay. Um, but I think I most of my friends, you know, they're even from different countries. A lot of them from Australia and Norway. And then we have some people that grew up here. So it's kind of nice to have that mix of everyone, you know, because it kind of is, it's a way that we can learn about the culture just with our friends that are within our group.
Hmm.
It's all very accepting, and I don't know. And we get to celebrate all the holidays that they celebrate. So it's just
Right.
like there's always a few holidays in every month.
Hmm. It's got a very cosmopolitan feel, um, I'd imagine.
Definitely.
One that's definitely different than even some bigger cities in the States, in the mainland, and that
Hmm.
you would think would be cosmopolitan just, by pure position geographically. Um, since being in Hawaii and being in the medical field, do they kind of go about things differently professionally? Any other different like mores or ways of being a nurse in Hawaii that are slightly different?
You know, I think with every that's one thing you'll learn with if anybody's travel nursing is you kind of find different ways that things work with different geographical locations. You know, like different places use different medications, or even with like wound healing, they use different methods of how they heal wounds. We use and Hawaii was the first time I've ever seen med honey, which is it's actual honey to heal wounds to help with like tissue growth. And you know, I've never seen that in Florida. I'm sure it's there, but I've never heard of that company or anything. So they're I would like to say that they do like a more natural way of healing too here, which is nice that they incorporate that. But like I said, that could happen in all different states. I
Hmm.
think that's one thing I picked up when I was travel nursing is like just they have a different way of doing things, even if it's the same, hopefully the same result. But there's definitely there's things that we can learn from other hospitals.
Hmm. Yeah, I was gonna say it seemed like more of a homeopathic approach they might have. Um, Probably not just in nursing, but maybe in dealing with just kind of chronic illnesses that people might have, or
Mhm. Yeah.
homeopathic doctors and stuff.
They like even for my ICU patients that were able to like go in a wheelchair, you know, we would want them to go outside for 30 minutes and we would just hang out with them and like
Hmm.
just to get that fresh air because that was just so healing for them, you know. And I've never heard of that anywhere else where they really encouraged, you know, nurses to go out with your patients. You know, they're monitored and you know we have them and they're safe and stuff like that. But I think that's so important, and it was awesome. I mean, it's kind
Hmm.
of our break too, you know.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, just the little details like that, just getting some vitamin D, just
yeah.
kind of like taking all the things that are around you as resources to get better.
Hmm.
Um, is there, so being a traveling nurse, you're kind of like to hire all the time in some sense, like, right? Like or like you don't know where you're going to be working a lot of the time. Is there a difficulty in integrating into like a new hospital all the time or a new work setting?
Honestly, I think of it like the opposite. I think it's exciting. Like I'm excited to learn how other hospitals do things and their protocols. And I mean, I think that's how you grow as a nurse is trying to not stay stuck in the same ways you always do things. And so it was when I first started out, I was nervous, and you know, you have a day to orient on the unit and then you're on your own like that. So like usually with a new hire, you would be with a mentor or another nurse for like 4 weeks, 5 weeks, sometimes up to 9 weeks, to kind of integrate into the system. But that's like the expectation that travel nursing has is that you have to like already have that experience to, you know, understand different charting systems and stuff like that. So it was exciting to me after my first assignment, and once I saw it and I knew I could do it, and it's just, you really have to learn how to work with others. So if you're a person that tries to go in there saying that you know everything, like travel nursing is probably not going to do that well for you. You have to kind of go in there thinking, what can I learn from you, and how do you guys do this, and stuff like that. So it's really important to kind of know your place with it too, and not try to go overhead and show what you've learned in your experience, but you really want to, like, what can you bring to the table?
Mm-hmm. Do you work with a lot of travel nurses on your different assignments, or are a lot of them, stationary?
Yeah, and I mean, there's a lot of staff workers, but I think still some of my best friends that I still talk to today are travel nurses. Like, you just kind of get a bond because we have orientation together, and then we're on the unit the next day. So we kind of have to find that friend in each state to get through it. Because I mean, some assignments are tough, and maybe it's not that comfortable with the staff or something like that. But like our role as travel nurses are, you can do anything for 3 or 4 months. You can get through it. It's not permanent. So just like do the best you can and do what's right for the patient. And, after that, you can go somewhere else if you're not happy. So I've been really lucky though. I've been really lucky to find places that I've never had any issues with where I've had my assignments. So
Going off of that, who would you recommend look at being a travel nurse versus being a staff nurse? Like, what type of person?
you just have to be personable. I mean, you have to be, I wouldn't want to say a people person, but you have to have that mindset that I'm always looking to learn more. Not, I've learned the most I can, now I'm doing this. You have to be willing to do things a different way. And just because you didn't learn it like that doesn't mean that it's the wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of learn. You always want to learn by the book in nursing school, but in the clinical field, I'm sure many nurses have said this, that it's just, there is no like line. There's a gray area, and so you have to be willing to like do things a different way with what works for that hospital or what equipment they have. So you just have to be open and coachable. And I think that's one thing that softball really helps you with too, is like, you have to learn how to do things differently, or, learn from others, or, if somebody else, you have to learn how to be flexible. So I don't know. I think softball has taught me a lot in those values and how I go into my career.
Do travel nurses stay travel nurses a lot, like throughout their whole career, or a lot of times they end up being staff nurses, or is there kind of any pattern?
There is, I mean, I'm involved on this page that has a lot of travel nurses on it, just to kind of see, we can kind of go there to see like, different agencies and, what do you guys think about this agency? Because, your recruiter is someone that you work really close with when you're on assignments, because they pretty much tell you what options are for where you can live, and, what your pay would be and what your taxes, you just have to trust your recruiter. So we kind of have this page where we go to talk about all that stuff and to vent. And, if there's things that like happen, like I just don't know what to do, and it's kind of like that relief page too, to talk about it.
So going off of that, it seems like they have a pretty big community, but I was just
Oh,
saying, do a lot of travel nurses stay travel nurses throughout their whole career and they never just transition into a staff nurse, or they.
oh yeah, that's what's cool, is like, I think it kind of is an equal. Like, there's a lot of people that they do travel nursing to figure out where they want to live. So that they're thinking, oh, I could see myself in Austin, Texas. They'll take an assignment there and they'll be like, yes, this is the place. And sometimes they'll stay like after the first assignment. That's what's beautiful about it. And say in a couple of years, you don't, Austin isn't for me. I want to go to South Dakota. I don't know why I picked South Dakota, but it just popped
There's
in
a
my
good
head.
contrast. Yeah.
And so like, you can always give it the try even years later. So like, as long as you're still getting the experience in between, it can go on a resume, then you're good to kind of go wherever. I mean, I would encourage anyone who's a nurse to like at least try it out after a couple of years of experience.
Mm-hmm. That's really
And you
good
can figure it
information.
out if you have that personality, because sometimes you just don't know, if you stayed in the same place for so long and you've worked with the same people, if it's a good fit. But like, that's one way you can find out. So
That's really good information for a lot of people. And I think, I definitely speaking from my field, there are different things like that you don't know exist until you have somebody speak it and tell you that this is an option, this is a career path, this is a way of doing it. Um, and nursing being such an important field, a lot of student athletes at UNF for sure are definitely studying nursing.
Yeah.
Those recruiters are big then.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You have to trust your recruiter, and you have to really look through the contract, and don't ever accept the first offer. That's what they
Hmm.
say.
Yeah.
Because it's a weird game. It's not just a contract. It's the recruiter's commission too. So, and you want to
That's
have that.
true.
You also, like, it's your work that you're going to be putting in there. So you want to make sure that you're getting paid a standard that other nurses are getting paid, and you don't want to set the bar low for travel nurses in the future to get a low pay because you're accepting the first offer that you get. So
Hmm.
it makes you think in that way too, to kind of learn how to approach different contracts. And I was lucky enough to have great recruiters too. So I don't know, I never had any issues, but I'm sure there's horror stories out there.
Always is, no matter what you're looking at in life, but there's always going to be those. But so speaking about your assignments in Hawaii, how does that work? So is there a limit? There's obviously a limited number of options in the state of Hawaii where you could work. Um, how many different places have you worked in Hawaii?
Oh man. Let's see. I've done an outpatient surgery. I was at an outpatient surgery uh, center for 2 years. I was like in charge of doing their inventory, which you don't realize how much a private practice goes in, like what goes into it until you've done that. Like it's crazy the amount from band-aids to different kinds of sutures, and it's just, so I've learned a lot from that. Uh, so I was PACU, pre-op, and in the OR, scrubbing in and stuff with them. And then, let's see, obviously in the hospital setting for ICU. And I think a lot of other ones have been in clinical settings. Like I've done for my clinic for school, I've been in like a pediatric outpatient clinic, and like a military-based clinic is where my main one was. So it's interesting to see like the different, there's a large military community here, obviously with Pearl Harbor being here, and Fort Schaffner and stuff like that. So I've got to kind of see that side of it too. But that's where the majority of, I guess, the places, but there's like flu clinics that I can go to anytime. And obviously I've been volunteering a lot with a crisis group here. So I've gotten to network a lot through those, the people that I met through there.
So a lot of different options and a lot of different
There are,
experiences. Yeah. So what's the goal with your studies right now? What is that being used
yeah.
to add to your career?
So I'm officially done with my family nurse practitioner part of my degree, but I'm going for a dual role. So I'm doing family and acute care. So it's the ICU side of it. So I'll start that in the fall. And then I'll graduate, hopefully. I know this pandemic has kind of played a role in that, but hopefully I'll graduate May 2021 as a family and an acute care nurse practitioner.
Okay, so one more year, hopefully that's the plan.
Yeah.
Talking about the pandemic, and in your field, how has it shifted things around for you? What have you seen?
So I don't know. I think with this, I've seen like the good and the bad. You see a lot of good, with people helping out and donating to hospitals and volunteering, but you see the bad too. So I don't know. I feel like the good and the bad comes from this, but hopefully the good is what shines through. My day to day has been trying to just figure out, since I've had a week off of school and I'm trying to just kind of unwind, trying to make sure that I have the right information. It's so easy to go on social media and just be like, oh, there's this article that said like this is all a hoax, and
Hmm.
you don't want to play sides with it. And I'm usually not one to like repost something that's on a Facebook article. So I like to do my own research. And I think when all this started out, I think that was my main thing, is I wanted to, every night I was sitting there and reading at least something about COVID-19 of how you treat it, or, you know, what other doctors are doing in Italy or China and stuff like that, to just try to figure out, because, you know, you have to find answers on your own sometimes. And I think that's what's great about, you know, the United States, is that you have the freedom to do that, and you have the freedom to post whatever you want, but you just want to make sure it's accurate. And so like that, I think that's been the hardest thing, is to like really just keep scrolling and not say anything. And you know, because it's their right to post whatever they want, but you also have to kind of keep it within yourself, you know. And that's what's been tough for me sometimes, is that it's like I just want to comment and just say, what are you guys thinking? But honestly, that's not my place, you know. So I think that's been one of the biggest challenges with this whole thing, is just the information that's out there. And sometimes I go back and forth with it too. And there's been times where I think when it first started, I was scared, and I was just like, I don't know what to think. When people would say, what do you think about this? Or, you know, do you think that it's going to get bad? And I'm like, I have no idea, because I've never gone through anything like this before. But all I know is how we can try to help prevent it. I mean, with washing your hands, and, you know, and I think that was the biggest thing that I've seen since it started. It was the phasing.
Yeah, it's a different angle than I think that the public probably thinks about with COVID-19, because you are in that professional field that's at the center of it right now. So like, if, you know, let's say you work in, you know, finance, and something happens in that industry, you're going to want to do your research, and you're going to want to, you feel like more responsible to be aware of it. As a nurse, it's like, you know, not only do you have your friends that are nurses that are talking, you probably are getting contacted by people that you just know in your everyday life that think you need to know this, or they're going to go to you for information. And it's not even just patients that you're dealing with, it's people in your life that are relying on you to have information. So it's probably a little bit of extra pressure in that sense too, just to try to figure out answers and make the most of learning about it for the future. How has it affected Hawaii, considering it's a unique community and a collection of islands?
I think Hawaii has that advantage, right? But I also feel like, and this is just my opinion, and I probably shouldn't even say this, but like, you know, Hawaii has a lot of, there's a lot of culture here there's a diverse population here. And so to think that it hasn't been here for a little bit, you know, prior to like when they started the stay-at-home orders and when the government really stepped in, to think that it hasn't already been here for a while, I don't know. I just feel like that's a little bit naive to think that it hasn't already kind of hit us. And, you know, we don't, as of right now, I think we're at 632 cases total. That's all the islands. And obviously Oahu is the biggest, most reported cases. I think we're at 511. I could be wrong, just on Oahu.
Oh.
But we've done our best to, like, you know, with a stay-at-home order, and everybody's been really good about just, you know, washing their hands and wearing masks. But that's the thing, is a lot of the cultures that have come over here and traveled here, that's been their culture anyway, you know, like people from China and Japan who've always kind of done that practice. So I think we have that advantage in a way. And you know, people are complying with the stay-at-home order and washing their hands and wearing masks, and you know, respecting the 6 feet distance. And I think we're really lucky to like live on an island where we kind of have this barrier, and there is no incoming or outgoing traffic really. I know you know, for essential workers they are allowing that, but I don't know really when they're going to start opening it up for tourists again, which is good and bad. I mean, we are really hurting from not having tourism here, because that's where we get the majority of our economy from. So I know, you know, a lot of local businesses are going to be hurt from this, and you know, my heart goes out to them, because I couldn't imagine, and especially they're a lot of my favorite places. But as far as when tourism is going to be allowed back, I just don't know. And I don't know. I think it's hard for a lot of the people here, and that's like America, right? Our thing is we want to work for, you know, live that dream. And if we can't work, you know, what are we going to do? And so I think a lot of people are struggling with it. And so I think it's hard.
What have you personally learned during this time? Not just about work, but about yourself.
Oh gosh. I mean, I think just working like with a volunteer group and everything, you know, I think sometimes people get really frustrated. And I mean, I've always known this as a nurse, is you just have to like be kind, because especially now, you just don't know what people are going through, and they're just trying to support their families or themselves. And it's hard. And I think people's emotions come out with this. And that's my biggest takeaway, is just like, you just have to like keep your head in control, like, and not react, when people say things. I think one of the hardest thing was hearing, when I was volunteering and we were in our PPE, we had some local Hawaiians that came by and said that you're the reason why it's spreading, is because, we're testing, we were doing the testing for it. So we're spreading the virus. And, that's hard to hear, but I mean, obviously we're doing the best practices that we can as far as not spreading the virus. But it's their right to like feel like that. And you just can't react to it. And then as hard as that is, because you just want to educate, you just have to like have an understanding for people and just realize that like, this is probably really hard for them. And, especially Hawaiians, they're known for like having their beach barbecues on Sundays and being out with family. Like, family is so big here. And so for them to like say, hey, you can't even go visit your family because you could spread it to your older loved ones, that's so hard. So, I mean, it's just having that recognition of just knowing that this is bigger than yourself. Like, you have to just give people their space, and literally and figuratively, I guess, but just be nice to people, like, no matter what. So I feel like that's so important, because if they see you react in a kind way, then hopefully they'll spread it. And that's one thing here that they live by, is like, spread the aloha. So I think that's one thing I try to take away from all of this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the stress of it alone can kind of just push you to not be yourself. And so, yeah, staying level-headed, and especially for you volunteering, in addition to your normal obligations, is to be appreciated. I know a lot of people will appreciate that, and I think you probably feel like look back on it and be glad you did it, and we're a part of it. Is there anything else that you want to add real quick, Stephany?
No, this is so exciting. It was my first podcast, and I didn't faint or do anything to
Yeah, I get sometimes a lot. Funny enough, I've had a lot of people say that to me. This is the first time they've done a podcast, so I'm glad that I gave them introduction to it, and hopefully you'll have a few more to do, because you did a good job.
Awesome. Yeah, have me back anytime. I have some spare time usually, and I'm used to getting up at like 3 a.m. for orientations for school back home. So
that's true.
I'm so ready. whenever you're ready to go.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Stephany. Thanks for taking time and getting this figured out, and stay safe, and thanks for what you're doing. Before we take off, continue to follow everything that is going on in UNF Athletics as we continue to post content on our social media accounts. UNF Ospreys on Twitter, along with all the sports-specific accounts, North Florida Ospreys on Facebook, UNF Ospreys on Instagram, and of course, UNFOspreys.com. We're looking back on each of our seasons, spring seasons included, honoring seniors, and going through other various content, including our greatest moments in history. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you guys here next week.